Ahoy rum explorers and bourbon enthusiasts. Today we are at Preservation doing a little tour. They have a very cool looking compound as well as a farm. So let's go check it out.
How all these products came to be about, especially since we're so new, but our products are so old. Marcy, our owner, is 1% of female-owned distillers. Her family had a winery in the California, in the Napa Valley area. So there were 3 generations of in that family business. So Marcy in her early 20s decided she wanted to do something just a tad different. So she got into distribution, worked for a company for a while. She loved it so much, decided to open her own distribution business. This job required her to travel quite a bit all over the United States. She came to Kentucky quite often. Loved the way bourbons and whiskeys tasted. She didn't care for that heavy, lingering pain. And that's when she decided she wanted to do something in the bourbon industry. So she thought, I grew up in a wine family. I'm used to sipping, blending, putting in the different types of barrels, aging in different places. What if I were to do the same things with bourbons and whiskeys? But that would change it up. So that's exactly what she decided to do, start a new concept of doing that. So she made some contacts here in the late 70s, early 80s. Back in the day, people were drinking vodka, gin, hard proof, no calories. Nobody was drinking bourbon. If they tried to give a bourbon barrel away, I don't think anybody would take it. That's how bad the industry was. So when Marcy actually showed an interest in wanting to do something in the bourbon industry, all the distillers had overjoyed to help her out. They took her the oldest bourbon barrels they could find, because these barrels were collecting dust. So we had virtually losing juice. That's the thing taxes on. So they wanted those barrels out of there. Marcy was able to collect these barrels, guys, for $3 and $4 a gallon.
What?
Go try to find a shop for $4 from the receiver. Difficult, yes. She was also able to collect a lot of those orphaned and lost barrels. Orphaned barrels are, back in the day, everything was hand tallied. Labels probably fell off some of these barrels. They didn't even know what was in it. So they were named orphan barrels. Lost barrels is simply lost barrels. Even with our modern technology, they still misplace barrels. They may find them 7, 10, 15, 12, 18 years later. They're exceptional taste profile. You don't want to throw those with those thousands of barrels of land. They're way too good for that. So distillers pull those aside, keep them for a specialty blend for product. So Marcy was able to collect a lot of those. She was also able to buy some of those distillers who were shutting down their closeouts. So on the way back to California, she was so excited that she was able to purchase all these amazing products for such an inexpensive price. So she started doing it on a plane. Back in the day, they actually served lunches on the plane, right? So she took that lunch sack, started drawing on it. She wanted to draw something authentic, somebody that looked authentic from Kentucky. So she chose an old guy that may have been a moonshiner, and she put kind of like a beard on him, a pipe in his mouth, bald headed, and went home, burned the edges with a lighter, set that label aside, and when she started blending her products and creating them, it just so happened she was going to be releasing these products close to the holiday time. And she looked at the picture, she was like, my goodness, it kind of reminds me of a very old saint. Marcy tries to help all the small family-owned businesses here. So 3 of the grains she gets are corn, wheat, and rye. And she gets that about 15 minutes from here. Malted barley is a cold weather crop, so she gets that from up north. So these grains come in these big bins. They get placed over this orange machine. This is actually called a hopper. We always keep the hopper open. So anything that does not belong in the grains, like leaf, shucks, rocks, anything like that, shoots out into this bucket. Sometimes it shoots out good grains. We just mix that with our mash bill feeder to our cattle. All the good grains shoot through these pipes into this vacuum hose and into the mill. Corn is a very, very hard grain to grind. It's almost like a rock, so you gotta pound it, and the hammer mill grinds it to such a fine level, guys. It's like a talcum powder substance. Look how fine that is. It's finer than our cornmeal at home. When we make a small batch of cornbread at home, it takes an hour and 30 minutes to make. So you can imagine, this is the biggest amount of grain we use here. So we have to get it fine like talcum powder substance. We get a 4-hour head start cooking our corn and then add the other grains. Say we're making wheated product, then wheat goes in next, then malted barley.
Question: with the way that you're talking about that, does that not clump up when you're making the? Okay.
No, it doesn't. There's a stir thing,
Okay.
and it keeps slowly stirring it, and that's how they do it.
Okay.
So the other grains are going to be very, very small. You can kind of see how much smaller those are. Rye, malted barley, and wheat. Those, they will change it out into a roller mill. And the roller mill kind of drops the grains like this. So they flow sideways, so they get chopped sideways, so we can retain the flavors out of them. Once they're ground, we shoot them through those pipes and go to the other side. There's another vacuum hose that layers the grains. And there's one more thing that's essential in order to complete that mash bill, which is going to be that limestone branched water. When Marcy, our owner, purchases property, she had no access to that. But because we live here in Kentucky because of Mammoth Cave, we have what's called limestone beds and shelves. Why that's important is when that water trickles down those beds and shelves, it naturally purifies the water, takes out lead and iron out of it, but it's rich in calcium and magnesium. The early settlers thought it was the golden corn, the maize that grew everywhere, that gave those amazing flavors. Of course, some of it's from that. But all the ancestors, they settled right along rivers and big creeks where that naturally filtered water was readily available. Eventually, they figured out it was actually the water that made it taste so good because the lead and iron were left out of it. If it remained in it would have been thick like petroleum and poisonous where they couldn't drink. Okay? So that's why you see so many distillers that have settled right here in Kentucky. Did you guys know prior to all this big surge in the market, all bourbons came from Kentucky? They did. It's our water and our temperature. We are in the Ohio Valley region. Because we're in that valley, the air never really completely lifts up. It stays stagnant in the spring and fall time. I'm not exaggerating when I say it'll be 50 degrees today, 30 degrees tomorrow. It just happens. Don't know why.
It literally does.
Yeah. So they'll open the windows to the big warehouses you see everywhere, latter part of spring, close it latter part of fall, depending on how warm or cool it is out there. Reason? Those barrels that sit right in front of the windows of those warehouses, they get the sun, the wind, the heat, the cold, all the natural elements in them. But what about those barrels out in the middle? Nothing touches them. But by opening those windows, sending those crosswinds, with the constant fluctuations in the temperature, the expansion and the contraction of the barrel, is how they pull all those amazing flavors. Now, it has to be on American soil for it to be bourbon. I mean, you guys can buy those bourbons from other parts of the United States and try to drink them, but I guarantee they won't taste as good as our Kentucky bourbon. I'm just saying. So these are the characteristics for it to be a bourbon, guys. Has to have 51 grain content of corn or more. Has to be put in a new charred oak barrel. Has to age a minimum of 2 years now. After the prohibition period, it used to be 4. But these guys, they want to release their products ASAP. They changed it to 2. No colors, flavors, additives can be added to it besides that distilled water. By law, when you fill that new charred oak barrel with your new make, you have to bring the proof down to 125 or less. And it has to be on American soil for it to be a bourbon. You can reuse that bourbon barrel to make a whiskey. All bourbons can be whiskey. Whiskeys can never be bourbons. 90% of the used bourbon barrels from the bigger distillers are sold to Scotland. When they get done with it, they're going to pass it around to wineries, tequila factories, you name it. Those barrels get reutilized over and over again. Those old warehouses all throughout Kentucky house anywhere from 20 to 22,000 barrels in them. The newer ones, Jim Beam, Benchmark, all of them have boat, are 2.5 sizes larger. They can house 55 to 65,000 plus barrels in them. Pre-COVID, I went to a function where the governor came to our town and praised our town for the growth in the market. And he said, if they combine all the horses, all the people in Kentucky, and they gave each Kentucky 2 barrels each, there will still be barrels left over. So try not to lose any sleep. We will never run out of bourbon in Kentucky, folks. Back in the day, our ancestors tried using all types of metals, such as tin, aluminum, things like that, not durable metals. They either melted or changed the flavor of the product. But they noticed by using copper kettles, it could cook at a very intense heat, and it actually enhanced the flavors. It's almost like a live metal. It breathes. So that's why our cooking pots, our woks, and things like that are lined with copper lining to enhance those flavors for us. So after 76 hours of fermentation, we're going to transport those grains into these 2 big copper kettles right here. So that's when we're going to amplify that heat to about 210 degrees Fahrenheit. With that intensity, those grains are going to start cooking and boiling. Once they start boiling, that's when those vapors are going to start forming and climbing. When they climb, they're going to start sucking into those helmets up there. Just like at home, you're cooking with a pressure cooker to slowly release those pressures. So they're going to release them through these pipes. They're going to go into these 2 short column stills right here. These are actually called rectifiers. At the bigger distillers, they call them tumblers. They go way out of the ceiling. Here, we're collecting 7 to 12 barrels a day. So by keeping it a shorter rectifier, we can control that proofing. If it was taller, proof is it's going to go up higher, then you got to add water that's going to strip you of your flavors. So this way we can contain that. And each one of those windows you see has a copper plate underneath it. It's almost like a sombrero. There's holes in it. When that vapor's released, it's going to go in and out of those copper plates, kind of dancing around it until it starts turning into a liquid form. And once it starts turning into a liquid form, any kind of grain sediments that settles, it starts dropping. There's a tray that catches it and traps it down. Then the alcohol is going to start settling. And right before they release that alcohol, there is a gauge that controls all the methanol and ethanol, which traps it into this container, and they come and collect it and dispose of it correctly. And right before we release that, they'll do that, and then they'll release it into these 2 condensers right here. They run them through the condensers. They'll add a little bit of water to it, which will pull out that real heavy proofing off of it. There's a fan system built in our condensers, which cools the alcohol down, and then we're going to pipe it through the other side, and that's when we do our fairing portion. Currently, we're only utilizing these first 2 rectifiers. When our owner built this distillery, she wanted to have the barn intact, so she didn't want to destroy it in any way. So she would save some old tobacco rafters. She had them put these 4 other rectifiers for future use to make our vodkas and gin. Those you can create today, bomb tomorrow, practically sell it the next day. Bourbons and whiskeys take a long time to make. Okay? So guys, do you know the difference between a chilled and a non-chill filtered product?
Yes.
You do? You probably don't. Okay, let me explain this to you. Back in the day, there were these bad guys called the rectifiers, just like what those are named. After they legalized the alcohol, these guys didn't want to wait for the bourbon to age. A day after it was made, it looked like water, right? All they were interested in was making a quick dollar. So in order for it to look like a bourbon, they would put iodine, turpentine, prune juice, tobacco juice, rust, motor oil to give it that color. Guess what happened? It poisoned the alcohol. Many people died because of these bad guys. So Congress came out with an act called the Bottled and Bond Act to protect the consumer. There were many stipulations for it to be a bottled and bond product. Had to be in one season, in one facility, care of one master distiller. Proof had to be an exact 100, not even 1 proof high or less. Had to be aging at least for 4 years. And it had to be stored in a federally bonded warehouse. Only federal agents had keys to get into these buildings. To this day, if you were to go buy a bottled and bond product, all these rules still apply, except for one, which is the federal agents do not have a key to get into the warehouses. So these guys were street vendors. They couldn't guarantee any if it would put them out of business. So legitimate distillery owners started producing the products, started selling them on store shelves. When the consumer went to buy it, if they saw anything floating in those bottles, they would buy them. They thought they were still getting poison. So distillers were stuck with yet another dilemma. They had to come out with a solution. So they came out with an idea of running it through a chill filtration system, which worked. Pulled out anything that was floating in that alcohol. And when they put those bottles on the store shelf, you could see clear through that bottle. All you saw was that amber tone. but it also pulled out a lot of that amino acids out of that alcohol. So say you buy a Jim Beam white label, Evan Williams black label. They're both chill filter. They're number one and number two sellers in the whole wide world, so they're mass produced. So say you buy a bottle today, 2 years from now, 8 years from now, open and taste them, they're all going to taste the same. It's like cloning, nothing changes. But a non-chill filtered product, you see it in the store shelf, neck portion, you may see a hint of a sweatiness. You may see a phantom of a cloud floating in a bottle here or there. That doesn't mean it's a bad product. It's just those fatty oils that are floating. So it's like drinking a fine bottle of champagne to drinking a very inexpensive wine. That's the difference between a chilled and a non-chilled. So after they run that alcohol through the condensers, cools it, and they're going to release it on this side. And there's 3 different types of flows that come out. The very first flow that's going to come out is going to be a heads. We're going to empty it on this side. And as soon as it starts getting clear, that's the hearts, the good stuff we're going to drink. That takes about 4 or 5 hours to empty. These guys have different gauges and things they measure to make sure none of that bad stuff's getting in there. As soon as it starts getting clouded and mushy, we're going to move it to the other side. That's going to be a tail cut. Okay? Heads and tails of the bigger distillers, it's a huge volume. They're not going to discard that. They're going to take that, add it into their next day's batch. That's where your term, sour mash, comes in. Ours is a sweet mash. Very small portion. We're just going to take that, brush it back into our paints. All the grain sediments that settle at the bottom, we add some water, clean all that out, and flush it to a clean that's on the side. We've already flushed our mash bill out there. Whatever we don't feed for our own cattle, we give it away free to true farmers that come and plant it. Although we try to keep our proof by keeping it a shorter rectifier, by law, we're not allowed to fill this barrel until the proof is brought down to 125 or less. Bigger distillers will cut their spot 123 to 124 now. In ours, we're collecting 7 to 12 barrels a day, so we'll cut our spot 150 to 160 now. So in order to do that, we're going to take all the hearts and stuff. We're going to move it all into this proofing tool right here. There's a large scale underneath. Keep your eye on the computer. See what it does when us lighting touch it. See how fast it changes? It knows the precise amount of water we need to add in order to cut it to the proofing level we want. Okay? So they actually have to age this lumber in all the natural elements. That way you can, for the expansion and the contraction of the barrel, when that takes place, it will already be acclimated to all the temperatures. Okay? And also it's easier to shape that barrel wood and to pull those flavors out. This is the reason why they call them brick houses. Back in the day, our ancestors did not have equipment like we do, lift systems, computer systems, none of that. It's like a brick of wood. It's 3 in height, 16 in depth, 48 in a counted brick. Easy for them to keep account, 48 in a brick. And all the old brick houses, the only style lift systems they had were the hand pulley style. This is a 53-gallon barrel. When we fill this, there's going to be about 50 gallons of liquid in it, about 520 to 25 pounds of weight. If you were to transport 2 barrels on that hand pulley style lift system, that's over 1,000 pounds. So it would have been very cumbersome for them to do that. So they only had the old warehouse about 2, maybe 3 stories high. The bricking system worked for them back in the day. To this day, they just call them brick houses. They're going to do anywhere from a 1 to 5 charring. At the cooperages, 1 and 2 chars are used for your very young products, flavored. Number 3 and number 4 are the perfect char. When we say get flavors such as honey, butterscotch, caramel, number 3 is going to give that. Number 4 goes a little bit deeper into the wood pulsers, spicy notes of cinnamon, cloves, nutmegs. I've only tasted 2 products that were done with a modified char. If you don't pay close attention, that's going to go deep into that barrel and starts collecting those tannins, which makes it bitter when you can't drink. After those barrels are charred, they clamp the barrels, and that's when they're going to let them cut the entire barrel, and they're going to hose it off, check for leakages. If there is any, they're going to use the wood chip of the barrel wood to seal it, or a reed of a cattail plant. It's very, very thin, fits right into between those slats, it expands and contracts with the barrel. I watched a documentary where the American Indians were the first people to use a reed of a cattail plant. They made a lot of cactus wine back in the day for their ceremonies. All they had were their animals getting their pouches to put in with a leather string on it. So there was a gaping hole. They found out by placing the reed of the cattail plant. It's a natural plant, so it didn't change the flavor. The sweetness from the wine played as an adhesive. So that's where they got the idea to use it in the bourbon industry. Did you guys know the top of the cattail plant in the documentary they showed the American Indians use that for bedding, feminine products, diapers? We're using Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble got the idea to create our diapers and our feminine products from them. This is only held by a little bit bun. Through evaporation, we're going to lose 3 to 4% of alcohol each year. We all know that just goes up into the heavens, the angels share. When that falls to the ground, the moisture from the earth is going to lift it. Because that alcohol collected sugar from the grains, sugar from the barrel wood, it's going to be kind of sticky. It's going to attach itself to trees, fences, buildings, whatever. Distillers have gotten smarter. They paint their buildings now. So, but the proper name for the angel share, in the documentary, they call it Tarula. I don't know the meaning, spelling, origin. Unfortunately, they didn't say that. So, that is the angel share. If the angels had their share, you know that devil's going to want to scout. What is left in your barrel is the devil's barrel. Anything the government makes knows going to be on your barrel head. It's going to say Preservation Distillery, DSPs for the distilled spirits plant, KY for Kentucky, our distillery number. Ours will say pot distilled, others will say sour mash. All of them will say bourbon whiskey because all bourbons can be whiskey. Serial number is the actual barrel number. The date it was filled, the year always goes first, alphabetical order for the month, the day it was filled in Bardstown, Boston County, Kentucky. Remember I told you guys at the beginning that Marcy likes to do business with smaller companies. So this is Zach Woodbridge. They actually have their Z stamp on it. They're located 20 minutes from it. A father and sons that have it. So she used to get all their barrels from them, but their production level is very small. So we've grown quite a bit when she first started to now. So she gets 25% of her barrels from them, and the 75% comes from Independent State Company. So I'm gonna go over here and show you guys how these barrel staves are done. Okay. I'm missing one. Oh, the number 3 chart, they must have used to keep the door open. Okay. So guys, this is how a natural cut of barrel stave is gonna look. Unfortunately, the number 3 staves out there. This is gonna be on number 4. And look at it, how chunky it looks, like the back of an alligator. So they call that the alligator chart. Our owner does this, which is a wave cut. She also has them to cut it this way too. And she does a number 2 chart. But she does one extra step, which is a toasting. As you can see, there's a lot of empty spots left on this barrel stave. This flakes off because it's only seconds at a time that they do that charring. So that flakes off, that gives us more of those caramels and butterscotches that we can pull out. And then she does one more step after the barrel's assembled. She has them to do a swirl cut on the inside. There's this tool that goes around, and all the stuff that flakes off stays in the barrel. So we can collect those smoky notes for you guys. So that's how Marcy does hers. Is anybody interested in tasting some moonshine?
Yes.
Okay, this is a sweet mash, so it's not going to be as strong as the other ones you've tasted out there. If you do not want to taste it, see what I'm doing? I put a little bit on my palm. I'm going to rub it together. When I nose it, I can get the mash bill smell. You know, like a bone. When I smell it again, you can get other grain smells. So we're thinking the proof could be 116 to maybe 126. So, cheers. One case, just squeeze and let go. Okay. Alrighty, taste it too if you want.
This is her blend though.
This is ours, yes. It just hasn't been cut with water yet. So it's straight from the sprit safe. Not bad. Do you want me?
That's good.
It's not bad at all.
That's so good. That's good. Right?
You gonna give me some or what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here, hold on.
Hey, I hold.
Hold on, hold on. Yeah.
Oh, very corn forward.
Dog paws? The yeast.
I know.
It smells like dog paws. Dog paws, yes.